This is Gemara and Taanis Daf Tes. So learn Shvius Chashidik Shachayim Derosh Yimrim as he's a good chance with Shana Makul Mordechim and the Vision is a good bust of a shandel. As well as Chashvur Shem Shal Yisben and Vreda many of Mega Chaim and Social Steven Reizes are Baskanzi to Basim as Chaysay Sol Memendel. Elias Vreda Shalay Shom as Ami Bashavik Shachan Shmo Bentil Din Khan Reizem Chai Basina Din Innovas in the Mendel Subin Vegorva and Mechanel is Vreda Tel Huva. Rivik was the Shem Dosim Mechadas Elizabeth Etter Besoich Shar Chayli Israel. We're holding in the bottom of Chesam and Bees. As everyone realizes, we're trying to get these shirim out a bit earlier as people have expressed that they enjoy being able to use it to prepare, to chazer, etc. So hopefully we'll be able to keep on facilitating that. And let's get to it. We're holding two lines from the wide lines on Chesam and Beis, the bottom of the Amid. We have a mnemonic over here, Kibbutz Kali, Tzedakah, Parnis. These are obviously 5 different random teachings, not so random, as we'll see in the Gemara. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yochanan, Gadol Yom HaGeshamim, Ki Yoimei Kibbutz Galias. And this today is going to be the greatness of rain. Continuing like we've learned, says Rav Yochanan, the greatness of rain, the day of rain is like a kibbutz gali, is like the ingathering of all the exiles, like the day, obviously, of Mashiach, Shenemar, Shuvu Hashem Shvisenu Ka'afikim Ba'negev, return Hashem like Afikim, it says. And what's Afikim? In Afikim Elamatar. So the fact that it says that Hashem return all the exiles, and it equates it to afikim, that's an equation like rain, shenemar, yira afikim, yam. V'amar Rav Yochanan, statement number 2, rain is so incredible, says Rav Yochanan, that even the gayasais, even the legions of soldiers, have to stop moving due to the rain, shenemar, as the pasuk says, tilamel ravi nachas gedudela, saturates are the tilamel, are the pharaohs, and then nachas gedudela, then the legions have to rest. V'amar Rav Yochanan, statement number 3, what stops rain? Those who paisik tzedakah, they say they're going to give tzedakah berabim, ve'ein noistin lo, a dreadful bal kavod. He says, I'm going to give, and then he doesn't give. Shenemar nisiyam beruach geshem einish v'salel b'misas b'matas sheker, with a false gift. V'amar Rav Yochanan, and the 5th and final, Ma'idach Sev, what is the meaning of the pasuk? As we turn over to today's Daf Tesam and Aleph, Aser to Aser, a famous Gemara. What is the meaning of the pasuk that says, give Meiser and give Meiser? Aser, says the Gemara, give Meiser, Bishvil shetis Aser, so that you will get wealthy. And now we have a story to prove this point. Ashki Rav Yochanan Yinuka de Reish Lakish. Rav Yochanan met the young child of Reish Lakish. Amar Lein, he said to him, Emeliv Stukech, what are you learning? Tell me the pasuk that you're holding at. Amar Lei, the child responds, Aser ta'aser. Amar Lei, Rav Yochanan says, Maya Aser ta'aser. What does that mean? Amar Lei, the child responds, Aser, bishvil shetis Aser. Give meiser so you become wealthy. Amar Lei, Rav Yochanan says, Minalacha, how do you know this? How do you know this? Amar Lei, so Reish Lakish responds, the child of Reish Lakish responds, Zil Nasi, go out and test Hashem. How do I know it? Go try for yourself. Amar Lei, Rav Yochanan responds, Umishari l'nisui l'kadosh baruch hu, you allowed to test God? I v'aksiv, the boss says, Lo tenasu Hashem, you cannot test Hashem. Amar Lei, the child responds, Alchi Amar Rav Oishia, Chutz mizu, this is the one case that you could test Hashem on, Shenemar, Heviu es kol ha'maiser al beis ha'oitzer, as the pasuk says, to bring in all the meiser, all the tips to the storehouse, so that there should be food bebesi in my house, says Hashem. Ubechanuni, no, bezos, and you can test me through this. Omar Hashem Savakais. Hashem says you can test him on this detail that if you give meiser will cause you to get rich. Im lo eftach lachem as arubas hashemayim, you can test me if I'm not going to open up the storehouses in heaven. You give meiser, says Hashem, I will rikoisi, I'm going to pour out blessings for you, ad beli die, without any limit. It says more, my ad beli die. Oh my Rabbi Bar Chamar Rav ad sheyivlu sifsaisechem, your lips will be worn out. Miloimar, die, enough, like a good Israeli child yelling, die, it's enough. So you give meiser, you get so much bracha that you're going to wear your lips saying die. Says the Gemara, back to being Rav Yochanan and the child of Reish Lakish, which of course Rav Yochanan's nephew. Amar Lei, Yahweh Mati Asam, the boy said to Rav Yochanan, Ihavas Mati Asam Lahai Psuka. if I would have gotten to this pasuk that we just learned, that said that you could test Hashem, I wouldn't have needed you. Nor would I have needed Hoshea, referring to his Rabbi Hoshea, Visu, and furthermore, that's story number one, as we see the incredible power of Tzedakah, Meiser, Aser, Bishvil Shatis Aser. And just to point out one detail, the boys can point out, it has to be exactly a tenth. Question is, what do you mean? First of all, you want to give more than a tenth. You could give up until a fifth. You could get even more in many cases. And number two is, how do you know? So the Pais can speak out. One should make a Tanai one time in his life and say, whatever I'm giving as Meiser should be exactly a tenth. And anything else that I give as tzedakah should just be tzedakah, not meiser. And of course, if you make such Tanai, it works, then Amir Hashem, everyone can get this fabulous bracha. Continues the Gemara of Suashchid Rav Yechon Nukad Reish Lakish. He met this child, Yosef Amar. He was sitting and saying, Evlas Adam Tisalif Tarkai. The foolishness of a man Tisalif Tarkai causes him to go off his road, causes him to get punishment. And the pasuk concludes, Va'al Hashem Yizayif Liba, and he blames it on God. You're doing something wrong, you get punishment, and then you say it's Hashem's fault. Yosef Rav Yechanan, the Kametami, Rechel was sitting and asking, Amar Mika Midi Dechsivi Bechsuvi, Taiberiza Raisa, is there something that was a pasuk you just quoted was in Ksuvim? Is there something that has a pasuk in Ksuvim that's not remez, not hinted to in the Torah? Amar Lei. So the child responded, Atuha. Me loy remizi, is this not hinted in the Torah? The Torah indeed says, Vayete libam ve'chardu ish, and their hearts went down, ve'yechardu ish alachif, and they were afraid, and each one said to the brother, Lamar, Ma'azoy zalsal kim la'anu, these are the brothers by Yosef, they got nervous, and they said, what's God doing to us? Excuse me, that's the next part of the story. So the child responds, there is a pasuk. We see that these brothers, even though it was their Aveiro, who are they blaming it on? Hashem. Just like we saw in that pasuk, people do things wrong, they get punished. And what do? God, what are you doing to me? What do you mean, God, what are you doing to me? It's your fault, you did Aveiros. Says the Gemara, Rav Yechon lifted his eyelids, and Rashi fascinatingly explains that Rav Yechon had long eyelids, covered his eyes, and he would have silver tweezer that he would use to lift up his eyelids. V'chazu bey, and Rav Yechon looks at the child, which we know from other Gemara means that V'chazubei asa imei apikte, and the boy's mother came and took away the child. Amra le, she said to him, I'm taking away the child before you do to him what you did to your father. And with Rashi already points out over here, Rashi points out the Gemara Babasiyah Daf Peidalim and Aleph that Rav Yechanan, the famous story of Rav Yechanan and Reish Lakish, what happened, Reish Lakish was the head of a band of thieves, a topic we've spoken about many times, but at the end of his life, Rav Yechanan looked at Reish Lakish, it caused him to caused Reish Lakish to become sick, which eventually he died. So the mother came to take him away from Rav Yechanan, saying, I don't want you to look at the kid, and also cause his death. And we conclude the teachings of Rav Yechanan by saying, says the Gemara, rain comes on behalf of a yachid, but parnasa, sustenance, prosperity, comes from many people. And the Gemara now explains, for you in the singular, but parnasa, when it comes to providing, when it comes to becoming wealthy, that's Bishul Rabim. In the plural. So we see that it only comes when it's needed by many people. Ask the Gemara, you Rav Yechanan just said rain is for one person, Parnasa prosperity is for many people. There were three fabulous leaders for Klal Yisrael, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam. And there were three gifts that were given to these three incredible leaders, Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, the bear, the bear, the well, Vanan, the clouds, and the man, the bear, B'schos Miriam, Amoranan, the clouds, B'schos Aaron, and man, B'schos Moshe. Continues the Gemara with the famous Medrash, Mesa, Miriam, Nistalika bear, Miriam died of the well, left, Shenemar, B'tamasha, Miriam, and then Uksiv Batzrei says, Layamayim later, they had no water, because there was no more well after Miriam died. V'chazir, B'schos Shneim, and the well came back, Because it's Chos Moshe and Aaron. Meis Aaron. Nisal Konani Akavod. We no longer have the clouds of glory. Shnamar Vishma Kanani Melech Arad. And we should remember this thing in Rosh Hashanah. The Kanani, the king of Arad, heard. Ma Shemua Shama. What did he hear? Shama Shemeis Aaron. He heard that Aaron died. V'Nisal Konani Akavod. And no longer were the clouds of glory protecting Klal Yisrael Kosover. And he thought, and knew like Rishos Ilach Yisrael cannot wage war. God forbid with the Klal Yisrael. And that at the meaning of the passage of a year called Eida, Kikava Aaron, and they all saw that Aaron died. And Amar Avavua, what does it mean? Vayiru? Al Tigri Vayiru Ela Vayirau. They were caused to be seen. That the people were caused to be seen. Why? Because Aaron was nifter. Because they reached Darish Rish Lakish. As Rish Lakish explains, this word ki can have four meanings: Doma, Ella, and Daha. And over here, it came from the because. So the people were caused to be seen because Aaron died, meaning the clouds were removed. So we no longer have the clouds. Chazu Shneim, the bear, the well, and the clouds came back with Chos Moshe, in the honor of Moshe. So what do we see? We see that Moshe Rabbeinu, for one person, brought incredible prosperity. Meis Moshe and Estalku Kulam, they all left. That these three incredible leaders were nifter in 1 month. Says the Gemara, 1 second, that's not true. Moshe, Aaron, and Miriam, they weren't all nifter in 1 month. Miriam, Isa ben Nisan, Aaron, Ba'av, Moshe Ba'adar. Elamelamed, on the second one line, this teaches us, Shenisbalu Gimel Ma'atana Yisai B'Shanu Al Yidam, Al Yad, and the three gifts were ceased to exist at one time, and Estalku Kulam Yerech in 1 month. But what do we see? Says the Gemara, concluding the lengthy brayso to ask, and Rav Yochanan, and Yochanan says, Matar, rain comes from one person, Parnasa, prosperity only comes from the Rabbim. Ask the Gemara, Al Mashkan Parnasa B'Shul Yachid. We see that Parnasa, prosperity came due to Moshe Rabbeinu himself. Explains the Gemara, Shiny Moshe. Moshe was different. Keep the Rabbim Ubayu Ki Rabbim Dami. Moshe Rabbeinu needed it for the Rabbim, for the people, and therefore it's as if he was many people. So it's not a question on Rav Yochanan. Rav Huna bar Minoach, Rav Shmuel bar Idi, Rav Chiyam Avistana, Havishchicha Kamei Derava, on the second to last line, they were in front of Rava Ki Yunach Lamshiva and Derava when Rava was nifter. Also Kamei Derava Papa, and they came in front of Rav Papa. Kolemas Navi Amarlu Shemaitzav Lavim Misaverlu. Whenever Rav Papa, they had a new Rebbe. So whenever their new Rebbe, Rav Papa would say something and they didn't understand it, Havim Ramzi Adadi, the Talmidim would look at each other and make these motions. They didn't know what's going on. Chalish Daite, Rav Papa felt bad, turning over to Testament Bays. Akrua bechalmei, and what happened? Rav Papa saw in a dream the following pasuk: and I have removed the three shepherds. Lamachar kavimifter minei. When Rav Papa was leaving these three talmidim, Amr lehu lazy rabbanim b'shlam, you should go in peace, which is a reference that they are going to be nifter due to the lack of kavod ha'Torah. You might not understand something, but you can't murmur. You can't even look at each other with disdaining eyes once the Rebbe says something. Says the Gemara, 3 lines from the top, Testament base. Rav Simi bar Ashi Avishchia Kamei Rav Papa. Another story with Rav Papa. Havim actually Tuva. Here, Rav Simi bar Ashi would ask Rav Papa many questions on the shir. One day, this Talmud Rav Simi bar Ashi sees his Rebbe Rav Papa. Nafal al Ape falls on his face, meaning he's saying Tachman. Shami Damar Rachmana Litzim Miksufa Desimi, and he's davening. He says, Hashem, save me from the embarrassment of Simi from all these questions. So Rav Simi bar Ashi Kabbalah lay accepted upon himself Shitikusa Vesulo Akshi lay, and he no longer ask questions. And of course, this does not mean one is not allowed to ask a question. It means one has to be careful how he asks the question. If the questions he's asking is causing the Rebbe to be in pain, obviously the questions were not appropriate. I'm sorry about that. Let's go back over here. Now we go back to the statement of Rav Yochanan. Number 7 lines on the top and Testament base. Says the Gemara, on Om and Aleph, what Rav Yochanan teaches that rain comes from a Yachid. Parnasa, prosperity, comes from a Rabbim. Says the Gemara now, Reish Lakish Savar, Mater Bishvil Yachid, the same thing. Tam Reish Lakish Mater Bishvil Yachid, the same. She'elu me Hashem Mater Be'is Amalkush. You should ask from Hashem rain at the time of the late rains. Hashem oise chazizim, and Hashem will form chazizim, which are clouds. Umatar geshem yitin lahem, and I'll give you downpouring of rain leish esev vasadeh, for each man grass in the field. And the Gemara now explains, Rish Lakish explains that we see from here that rain comes from one person. Yochel, I would think lakol. I would think that Hashem will send rain for everyone. Tamalai mar leish, a singular person. Vetanya, and similarly we learned learned in a brisa. Ileish, it says for one person. Yachal kol sedaisav. I would think Hashem only sends rain if all the fields of this person need rain. Tamalemer sadeh. Yisad yachal kol sadeh. Tamalemer eisef. That Hashem will send for one person, for his one field, for one part of the field, the rain. Rav Daniel bar Katini Havalei Ahu Ginsa. Rav Chanina bar Katina on the first white line had a certain garden. Every day you would go and you examine the garden in Amar. And he would say, this row needs water, this row doesn't need water. And what would happen? Incredible. And wherever he needed water, whichever row there was rain would come in that row. An incredible miracle. And now the Gemara continues elaborating the pasuk from above. What does it mean that Hashem forms chazizim, which we translated chazizim or clouds, 3 lines into the white lines in Testament base? Omer Rav Yezi Rav Chanina Malamich called Sadik v'Sadik. Whoa, called Sadik. Excuse me, let's get the highlighting back on. Here we go. Called Tzaddik v'Tzaddik HaKadosh Baruch Hu Oisli Chaziz Bifnei Atzmai. People own cars, people own houses, people own buildings, people own cities, people own clouds. Tzaddikim have their own clouds. Each and every tzaddik has his own clouds. My chazizim in the plural, Amar Rav Yehuda Parchais. It's clouds are flying clouds. What does that mean? Amar Rav Yechlan Simin Lamadar Parchais. You know when you know it's going to cloud? When you see rain, when you see flying clouds. My Parchais, what does it mean? Flying, Amar Ababa Eva Kalisha Tute Eva Semichta. A thin cloud underneath a thick cloud, that's you know it's going to rain. Omer Rav Yehuda says, Rav Yehuda Nihila, Makme Mitra, Rav Yehuda says, Nihila, if there's drizzles, the fine rain, Mikami Mitra, then Asi Mitra. If it drizzles before it rains, you know that it's going to have a heavy rain coming. Basar Mitra, but if it drizzles after the rain, Pasik Mitra, the rain is stopping. Maki Mitra, Asa Mitra, how do we know? V'simanech, Meholta de Basar Mitra, Pasik Mitav Simanich, Charya de Azya. Says the Gemara, the simin that if the drizzles beforehand is a mahulta, is a sieve, that just like the sieve first comes out the small pieces, then the large pieces. So if it drizzles and then comes out the large pieces, you know it's going to rain. The basar mitra, basik mitra. But if you have the drizzles after the rain, it's going to stop. What's the simin? Charya de easy goat dung. And what does that mean? So we look at Rashi directly, of course. Rashi says that the way the goats use the facilities is that first it comes out large pieces, then it comes out small pieces, upaisik, and then it stops. So if after rain it drizzles, you know the rain is about to stop. Says the Gemara, Ula ikla lebavel. We're about 8 lines into the wide lines, the 2 dots. Ula ikla lebavel. Ula came to Baal chazi parchais. He sees these flying clouds. Amr Lahu says, Ula pani mane. Clean out your utensils. It's about to rain. The hashtas mitra. Now it's going to rain. L'sayf lo yazi mitra. It didn't rain. Amar. So Ula said, Ke'eche de meshakri babloi. Hachi meshaki mitrai. Just like the Babylonians lie, the clouds themselves lie. Incredible, as we see, like we know from Noach by the Mabul, we know from San Francisco, we know that the land itself is mushba, is contagious from the way people act. So the people in Babel apparently were terrible liars. So what happened? The clouds themselves lied. Another story, Ula went to Babel and he saw a basket full of dates, the tamri of dates, bezuzah, they cost only a zuz. So said Ula, Amar, Maletzina the dovsha bezuzah, a basket full of honey, date honey, for 1 zuz. It's so cheap. And you're not sitting and learning. You have such incredible cheap food. You should be learning all day. What happened? Balayla night so Ula ate some of those dates. That night he had such a stomach ache. And Amar, then he said, now I understand. Maletzina disakina bezuzah. It's not dates, those are knives. Those destroy your system. You have a basket full of knives for a zuz. And now he said as a shvach, as a praise. Wow, you guys are learning even though you have this dreadful, terrible food. Tanya, we learned in a price of Lezoimer Kol Eilam Kulai Mimeme O Kindness Who Shaisa. Machlekes brewing. Says Rav Eliezer, where does rainwater come from? It comes from the ocean, the water evaporates, and then it comes back down. Shenemar, as we see in the pasuk, that the vapor ascends from the earth, and then it waters the entire soil. That's Rav Eliezer's opinion. Amar Rav Yeshua, no. Can't be. The ocean is salty. Amar Lai, Rav Eliezer responds, Mamtikin ba'avim, the clouds sweeten it. The clouds get rid of the salt. Rav Yeshua indeed argues, and he says, says Rav Yeshua, the rain does not come from the oceans, it comes from the upper waters, the water stored in heaven. From the rain in heaven waters the ground. What it says Rav Yeshua. So what do I do with the pasuk of Rav Eliezer, the pasuk that seems to say that the vapor goes up and it comes back down? You know this teaches us? This pasuk teaches us, says Rabbi Yeshua, that the clouds built, they go up to the heavens, they open their mouths like a nun, like a fount, like a canteen, like a bottle, and then they receive the rainwater from heaven. Meaning, he's agreeing that there's something going up and coming down. Rav Eliezer said it's the vapor, it's the mist, it's the evaporation goes up and then the rain comes down. Says Rav Yeshua, no. It's the clouds go all the way up and they get filled up from that reservoir in heaven and then they pour out onto the earth. Shenamar, says Rav Yeshua, Yizku matar lo eidai, the heavens pour rain into the clouds. Umenu kava yisein kikivra. And now Rav Yeshua continues and explains that the clouds are perforated like a sieve, ubayis umachashis mayim al gabe karka, and they come, they sprinkle water on the ground. Shenemar cheshos mayim avei shechakim, a sieve of water of the clouds in heaven. Vein bein tiba l'tiba al-kamal, the hair breadth between each and every drop. You know what this teaches you? Great as the day of creation. A drasha reminds us back from Daf Beis when we saw Machurach Umayr Geshem. What did the first Mishnah say? Why Gevurais? We said because it's like the creation of the world is Cheker. And that's what we know, that the day of rain is equated to the day of creation. Cheker shows us Gvura, and that is how great the rain is. But at the moment we're holding that we have a machlekes, Rav Eliezer and Rav Yeshua, a fundamental machlekes. Where does the rain come from? Rav Eliezer said it comes from the ocean. Rav Yeshua says no, it comes from the clouds up high. Now this machlekes is going to take us all the way into tomorrow's daf. Let's just begin for a few moments. For 7 lines from the bottom at the parentheses, says the Gemara, Kaman Ozla Hadich, the following pasuk, Mashkaharim Ali Yosef. The pasuk says he waters the mountains from Ali Yosef, from the upper chambers. The water comes from the Aliyos, from the chambers up in heaven, from God. Come on, that's like Rav Yeshua. It sounds like where does rain come from? Not from the ocean, but from all the way up high. Rav Eliezer, how does he explain the pasuk? First, the rain starts from the oceans, then it evaporates up all the way to the clouds, and then Mashkem Al Yosef Karilu. It's called that it comes from the upper chambers. If you're not going to say that, says Rav Eliezer, how is it possible to have dust and dirt that come from heaven, Ella, which as well the pasuk there says. So what are you going to explain? That the dust and the dirt travels up to heaven and then it comes back down. So question number 1, the pasuk that sounds like the rain comes all the way up high, Rav Eliezer says no big deal, it means it evaporates and then it comes from up high. Come on, another question, 2 lines on the bottom. Where does the following mean? The pasuk says that the water are like a mound. He places the deep waters into the storehouses. Who causes the storehouses to be filled with water? The depths. So what do we see? Rav Eliezer. That's like Rav Eliezer. That where does the water in the storehouses come from? The depths. It comes from the ocean. Clearly like Rav Eliezer. Rav Yeshua, how's Rav Yeshua going to answer? Turning over to tomorrow's daf on Daf Yod. Says Rav Yeshua, that's talking about the creation of the world. That's a different story. Don't ask from over there. That was a special question that it came from the storehouses, but it's not the regular. So we conclude with this machlekes. Tomorrow we'll pick it up from over here. Actually, tomorrow we don't longer have this. Tomorrow we're going to go into Ma'ila of Eretz Yisrael. But the machlekes, Rav Eliezer saying it comes from the ocean, or Yeshua comes from the storehouses. I'll pick up from here in the next year. Mirza Hashem.